Hey guys, Brian here with Texas Country Day Podcast, and man, we have an awesome show for you today, so stick around. You're not going to want to miss this one. We got J.R. Herrera right here and now on Texas Country Day Podcast.
Well, hey guys, Brian here with Texas Country Today podcast, and normally I would have my trusty partner Dusty Motes on with me, but he has some other things going on this morning that he just couldn't do, and this was kind of a crazy roundabout way we got to this podcast in the first place, but I'm excited for it. Before we jump into it, though, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, smithmusic.com, Sharp Supply Leather Company, making the finest guitar straps and DAP kits around, Texas Select Beverage Company. We've got R. Watson Boots, making the finest boots for rodeo people and country music enthusiasts and anybody that just likes really nice boots. And then we also got Fort Worth Camera, supplying the best professional camera systems to the DFW area, as well as rentals. They'll do film development, and they can find you all that odd film that you can't find anywhere else. They also have some photography classes over there. And then last but not least, Cinco Microphones. They provide all the microphones for Texas Country Music News and Texas Country Day Radio. So without further ado, J.R. Herrera. J.R., how you doing, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad we got to work.
I know. We've been I've been battling some technical issues this morning. I had a interview with Bailey Ray right before I hopped on with this, and I ended up just giving up on my computers and went on the phone. But that's not really any fun. It makes things actually a little bit more difficult for me.
It's working now. We're good.
Yeah. So. The main thing I want to talk about is actually your new single coming out. But for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your music style, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story. I grew up down in the valley, and we kind of listened to everything. I grew up with country music, Spanish music, everything. And when I was 15, I started playing with a mariachi group down there, and I did that for like 10 years while I finished high school, went to college, and I played with that group, the same group for 10 years. And then about the time I started teaching middle school science, I went ahead and left the group, and I wanted to kind of start really playing more country music, so.
Sure.
And then, long story short, I taught a few more years, went to go work for Carnival Cruise Lines as a country singer, and then ended up in San Antonio and started this project about 6 years ago.
Wow. I mean, so that is a lot of stuff that you just crammed into, I think, about 30 seconds. So.
I know. It can be like a 30-minute conversation.
I'm going to pick up on a little bit of that before we get into the meat and potatoes of all this. But Carnival Cruise Lines, how does that work? I know there's a lot of people that go the Disney route and the Universal Studios route. You just I don't hear a lot of country artists going the Carnival Cruise Lines route. So tell me about how that started and how that worked out for you.
Yeah, so it was, I had honestly quit teaching in the middle of the year because this was 3 years in, and I was like, man, I can't do this. This is not really what I want to do, and that whole thing, right? And I just was pretty honest with him, and I said, I'm probably not going to make it the whole year. I was living in Austin at the time, and I was playing a bunch of acoustic gigs and stuff. I was like, I really felt like I needed to pursue it 100%,
Sure.
Like just give it everything. And so I had quit my job, and I didn't really know what I was going to – I was just trying to look for gigs, I guess, Like money was going to run out, So trying to figure everything out. And during that Christmas break, it was December, I was on Craigslist, and I saw an ad for Carnival Cruise Lines looking for red dirt Texas country acoustic guys, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So I went ahead and applied, went through the whole process, and – May of that next year, I was on my first ship on the Carnival Triumph playing.
Yeah. What's that? So what's that like? I mean, obviously, a lot of people have been on cruises, and they know that certain cabins are better than others. But you guys are kind of all below deck. I don't even think you guys have windows on the staff rooms, do you?
We don't. Depending on the ship, your room can be different. I was one of the entertainers, so like on one of the ships, I was on deck 6 in the guest areas, but just kind of hidden. It was like a hidden corridor. But yeah, it was like our cabins are not like the guest rooms at all.
Do you feel like during that, like, I'm just sorry, this has kind of got me engrossed in a little bit too much, but I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
What's that like living on a cruise ship? I mean, is it just a lot of overindulgence, or is it just like normal life because you're crew? I don't know.
It's a little bit of both. It can be.
Yeah.
I guess depending on what your job is. I mean, I was very fortunate that my job was playing country music every night in the bar.
Sure.
And everything that comes with that.
So Carnival Triumph, how many country bars did they have on that place?
They didn't. So they only had, like, when I went on, they started hiring a few guys, and there was only a handful of us that did country music, right? Everybody pretty much on all the ships, they kind of rotate through like Tampa and Miami. They have ports all over the U.S. And so it's more variety stuff that you'll see. So when I went on, there was a few of us that were on there to do country music, like from Texas, Oklahoma. There was a buddy of mine from Nashville. And they were trying to get people like in Galveston, New Orleans ports, because it's such a big country crowd.
Sure.
So they just put you in a bar, and that's what I did, was just take requests and learn a ton of songs.
Well, I mean, that probably helps you with touring now. We were talking a little bit before you got on. This current single you got out. It is your 6th studio single, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that you sent me 2 songs, but it's "String Me Along," and that one is out to country radio right now, right?
Yes, August 1st we released it. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell me about your process a little bit of writing that. Did you write that song, or did you have co-writers, or tell me about how you came up with that song?
So I pretty much write everything. I've been doing a lot more co-writing lately. But that song I wrote during the COVID lockdowns, along with a previous radio single, "Let's Give It a Shot." I wrote I have this thing where I'm write like 2 songs at a time. It's a weird thing. Like I'll be going back and forth for a while, And then lately what I've been doing is getting with like our current producer, going into the studio and doing like a co-write section, and just going through every line and trying to make sure that everything is as concise and like there's everything that you need there, right? There's no fat in the lyrics and so it does help to have a co-writer, I think, kind of just rip it apart.
Yeah. So what studio did you end up cutting this one at?
So the last 2 singles we've been at with Mac Damon at Stone Creek Sounds out in Helotes, Texas. So it's like west of San Antonio.
It's crazy. So I'm not originally from Texas. I'm originally from Colorado. So I've been here. This is my 2nd time living here, but I've been here a couple of years. And I have heard for that city, Helotes, I've heard probably 3 or 4 different names for it. So at this point, I don't even really know what the real name of that city is. But I like the way you said it. So I've heard Helotes.
That's where Floor's Country Store is at. So I think that's the many people would know.
Yeah. I've heard Helotes, I've heard Elotes, I've heard Helates, and just all sorts of crazy stuff.
I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I moved here 6 years ago. I didn't even know Helotes was a thing. So I'm going with it the way everybody here says it.
So from... I kind of lost my train of thought there. That's a little crazy. You cut the song. You said you write 2 at a time? That's kind of that.
Yeah, it's been weird. I don't know where that came from, but I mean, I wrote this song along with "Let's Give It a Shot." We released previously, and I wrote them both literally at the same time during the COVID lockdowns. And and no co-writers, nothing. They're 2 totally different styles of songs, but it just worked. And we, a lot of the one thing that we do a lot that I love doing is. These new songs that I'll write, I'll post them like on Facebook, Instagram and stuff, just kind of gauge see what people think about them. And then if they go well, then we'll write band arrangements for them. I'll get together with the band and we'll put together, so we've been playing String Me Along live for like 2 years.
It just, yeah. So, I mean, you've probably gotten pretty good at it by now. So I'm going to kind of rewind a little bit because I think you kind of have a cool story. So you got done with Carnival Cruise Line, and you've been working on, we'll call it this project, but basically country music in Texas now for, you said 6 years? Is that right? 6 years you've been doing this?
Right. The first 3 years were kind of like, we were kind of doing the dance hall thing. I was kind of getting my legs as a band leader and as the front guy, and I'd never really done that before. And then the last few years coming out of COVID was really like, I mean, we released our first single to Texas radio a month before the COVID lockdowns. So it's been about since then that we've been pushing our music more and more at our live shows and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Out of all the places you've been playing live, what's been your I guess the craziest place, the place you never thought you'd make it into, kind of like that bucket list place? Have you made it there yet?
Not quite yet, but we've played some really cool venues and with some really cool artists. Like, we've gotten to open up for Randy Rogers, who's like my absolute favorite. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm just a huge Randy Rogers fan. So that was really cool. We've done a couple shows with them. We did a show with one that's really memorable. Was we opened up for Creed Fisher. We did a few shows with him, but there was a show in San Antonio that we did at Sam's Burger Joint, which is like a legendary kind of venue. And I think to date, that was probably one of my favorite shows, is doing that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny you bring up Randy Rogers, and well, not necessarily funny, but it's kind of fortuitous, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I was actually talking to Dusty, and I've had the pleasure of as a press covering Randy Rogers and Wade Bowen, both at like the Wade more so at the Texas Country Music, the Texas Regional Radio Music Awards. Don't want to get those two confused.
Right,
and then I saw Randy down at LJT this last year, and it's kind of funny. They obviously both have outstanding careers as individuals, but for whatever reason, these Hold My Beer albums are just insanely popular, and I think they might be more popular as a duo than singular. I'm not sure. What's your opinion on that?
I went to they just did one here in Helotes like this past weekend, and we went last July to one of them, and it was insane. Like, we've been to Randy Rogers shows, Wade Bowen shows, but I think I'm willing to bet these guys. This is the first thing I said. I said, I'm willing to bet these guys make way more money doing these things than they do their own shows. Like, merch and the whole thing. It's incredible.
Yeah. They just came out with what is it, Volume 2 or Volume 3, and they already announced another album. Like, they're not even done touring on this one, and they've already announced that they're cutting another one. So I don't think they're by any stretch of the means done yet. So as a artist and a Randy Rogers fan, what is your favorite Randy Rogers song to listen to and your favorite Randy Rogers song to cover?
My favorite one to cover is probably Buy Myself a Chance.
Okay. That's a good one.
Good solid dance hall tune. Yeah, we play that one towards like the end. Like, if we're doing longer nights, we'll play it with the band quite a bit, depending on what we're doing,
Sure.
But yeah.
What's your favorite one just to rock out to?
That's a tough one.
I know. It's my job to stop you.
There's a song called there's a few of them, but there's one called Standards. I don't know if you've heard that one. And it says, I don't have hits, I've got standards. It's like a play on, that's probably one of my favorite songs,
That's a good one. That's a really good one. See, Wade Bowen's kind of my guy. And there's, for me, I think my favorite Wade Bowen song is not even like remotely like his biggest hits by any mean. Anyways, I apologize. I'm stalling for time here because I cannot remember it. It's Somewhere Beautiful. Somewhere Beautiful is my favorite Wade Bowen song. I don't think it was even like one of his top 50 hits. You know what I mean? But
right, yeah. I think it's a really good songwriter. Yeah, I'm a huge Wade Bowen fan too. I love his stuff.
He didn't write that one. I know that was written by somebody else, but
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah. So the original artist on "Somewhere Beautiful," and see if I can find it real quick. But so Dusty and I were talking about this, and I like the Wade Bowen version. He likes the original. The original was a song by, I don't think that's the right one. Sean McConnell. Sean McConnell wrote the original. Yeah. And he's the writer on it, and he's the original performer on it. But do you enjoy doing co-write? I know you write your stuff, but do you enjoy doing co-writes? Do you ever see yourself cutting somebody else's song? Oh
yeah, for sure. There's a song we're in the process of getting all the permissions for. I've never done this before, but there's a band from, I think they recorded the song, released it like in 2000 or something. But they recorded it's not a country band. They recorded an English version, a Spanish version, and a half and half version. And their name is 7x4. So I've been wanting to cover their song for years, and we play it live with a band as well. I come from that background also, singing in Spanish. So hopefully that'll be, like, God willing, we're working on it right now. Hopefully that'll be our next Texas radio single, like the half English, half Spanish version of it. But yeah, I would love to cover it. Yeah.
That kind of brings up an interesting thing. So there in the industry right now, Fast Car is kind of like a hot new song, even though it's an older song, right? And traditionally, Tracy would never let anybody cover that song. And I found out she just didn't want to let it be covered. And so the way Luke Combs, right? It was Luke Combs. I could be. Yeah, it was Luke Combs. Yeah, the way he covered it is it's through kind of this strange loophole in copyright. He did not change it at all. It's in the original key. Everything is note for note exactly like the original. It's just in his voice, and in doing that, apparently you don't need permission because it is like artists. It becomes his property. That song becomes his property. He did agree to play with doing that. You have to pay royalties. You know what I mean? He agreed to pay royalties on it, but it's kind of a crazy world. So what's it been like tracking down a band and getting permission to cover a song and all that kind of stuff? Because this is the business side of things that a lot of people don't think about or know about.
Yeah, well, we have an attorney working on it. So it's not the band that we need permission for; it's the songwriter. Because everybody, I mean, the thing about this song is that we're still waiting, but the attorney's working on I guess the paperwork or whatever. I don't know a whole lot about the details of it, but we found the songwriter, and what he said was probably easy about this situation is that this song has been covered by Spanish bands like for years. It's been covered, recorded rather, probably by like 50 other bands. It's just never been a country band. So he said there's obviously if a bunch of bands have done it, it probably wasn't very difficult to get the permission. So, but he's in the process of reaching out to the songwriter and all that kind of stuff, getting that stuff going. So along that same lines, and I'm happy you made that distinction because I, in doing some coverage for, different awards show, I have to reach out to different labels and things like that to get permission to run either music and or music video. Music videos are actually more tough because then you got to get permission from like directors and producers and the filmmaker and the investors and all that stuff. So I try to stick with music because that's covered under like ASCAP licensing and BMI licensing and stuff like that. But one of them that I did that was kind of bizarre to me because I hadn't encountered it before was actually Whiskey Myers, and I wanted to do a particular song, but Cody Cannon, the lead singer of Whiskey Myers, he only is listed as a 33% co-writer on that one, and he's with Warner Chappell. Well, the other 66%, 33 and 33, they're each with two different labels. So Warner Chappell could only give me permission to play 33.3% of the song. And if you try to figure that out, how much of the song you could play, it comes out of like a minute and 17 seconds, something like that. So, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it gets crazy when you start getting up into those higher levels.
Right.
What's the craziest thing you've kind of come across that you never imagined you'd come across when you're talking like the business side of being in the music business?
Probably this thing with trying to get permission for the song. I don't think we've really come across taxes, maybe.
Well, yeah.
Keeping track of that stuff, I guess. Everything else has been pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's definitely not my favorite part of doing this. But
sure.
But I try not to get I guess it's easy. Like you were saying, a lot of people don't really realize what it takes to do this. A lot of times, keeping the wheels on the ground, man. Keeping the band on the road. That's been the biggest learning thing for me. Is the van and the trailer and all these little things that go along with just trying to keep the train moving. So, and keeping, trying to continue to put money towards it so that you can continue to grow,
Sure.
not trying to not stay stagnant. In other words, that's probably been the biggest challenge. But
so in your shows, obviously, and I think a lot of people don't know this either, and maybe it's not true for you, but in 90% of the bands that I talk to, the gig itself is not the biggest moneymaker. 9 times out of 10, it's merch. Do you find that to be pretty true for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. You kind of hear that across the board, and it seems to be pretty true.
It is, yeah.
Especially where we're at right now is we're kind of in this gray area. I feel like where we're not quite at the point where we're selling tickets yet. So it's a lot of guarantees, which is fine as long as the way I see it right now, we're grinding. As long as I can pay the guys, keep everything paid, we're good to go. We're fine. So right now merch is kind of a big deal too, because we're just getting that guarantee. We're not getting tickets. We're not getting, we can't.
Sure.
Not quite there yet.
Well, and then you hope you cover that guarantee so that you get invited back, right?
Right. 100%. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So a good friend of mine, I do a lot of photography for him, but he's had just a really, really bad run of getting booked at these really cool places on Thursday nights. And I get it, you want to play, but when you got a full band and you're playing for the door on a Thursday night in Texas, sometimes that's rough. I think he just played Hanks, and there might have been 15, 16 people in the entire place. Yeah. And he had to pay his drummer, had to pay his bass player, had to play his lead guitar, and luckily I think they sold enough merch because people were going buying t-shirts and hats and things like that throughout the night. But I think they sold enough merch to cover the band. But yeah, it's been kind of rough out there. Do you find that some of the most unexpected places end up being your best shows?
Oh yeah, I've learned not to call it at all. Just go and don't even think about it. We're gonna go do our show the best that we can, and not even worry about that, because you never know. It's always the ones you think, oh, this is gonna be awesome, and then it's kind of a letdown.
Yep.
But then sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I'm not expecting anything, and then it's totally great. So I've learned to not even put that in my head. We're just gonna go do the same show we do every time as best as we can. I mean, we've done shows where there's 3 people. We did one show in spring. We had never played in Houston either. There was 3 people there. We played a 90-minute set to 3 people, bro. But
that's crazy.
One of 2 things didn't happen, I think.
That's cool that you didn't short it, because I've seen a lot of those shows happen, and most of the time they end up getting shorted. So yeah. So I mean, the way I left that show was kind of one of 2 things can happen. Either I can get hard on myself, bitch about it, or you can learn how to put on the same shows. One lesson that I learned from not having a lot of people is I don't care if there's 100 people or 3 people. I'm going to put everything that I have into this show. And I think that's a lesson to take from that, Sure.
Just tell the guys also, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people are here. Let's not even talk about that. Let's just go and.
It happens more than I think a lot of people realize. They see this concert, that concert, and they're like, oh no, I'd like to go, but I need to do this, that, the other, and they don't realize that maybe every other person thought that same thing. I was at a Eric Willis concert, and I was at a John Wolfe concert at Arlington Music Hall 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And Eric Willis, there was 4 people, and they were all staff that were in the concert.
I mean, it happens, man. It happens to the
that's
big
a tough thing
too.
And then what made me start Texas Country Music News, which actually originated as Texas Country Music Connection, but that's a story for another day, was actually a Scotty Alexander and a Brie Bagwell concert that I didn't even pay to get into. I got free tickets through this charity called VetTix, and I think there was my group of 5 people and maybe 2 other people in the audience, and Brie and Scotty came out and played. Like, I don't know if they couldn't see because of the spotlights or if they just didn't care. It was a phenomenal show, and it's what made me want to get into this business, to try to help artists learn to play that way, but also to try to spread awareness to these venues that are trying really hard to book really good bands. But I don't know. This might just be more from my perspective. Do you find that a lot of venues might be really good at selling alcohol, but not so good at promoting shows, or they might be really good at promoting shows, but nothing else? Like I have yet to find a venue that is really good across the board at everything. But at the same token, I find a lot of artists are really good at playing music and not so good at running their band as a business and promoting themselves. Do you find it that same kind of thing across the board?
I think everybody has their strengths and weaknesses for sure, and it's pretty obvious when you meet somebody, a band, like you're saying, a band, venue. It's kind of all the same thing, I think. Yeah. Like this one venue that I won't mention who they are, but this one venue that where those 3 people. I mean, the venue was awesome. It was a new venue. The venue was awesome. Our booking agency has started working with them, and I think we were like maybe the 5th or 6th band that they had put in consistent. But there was like no marketing. I mean, their stage was amazing. Their PA that we plugged into was amazing. I mean, they had just everything was like perfect. This place should be packed every night, Everything's perfect, the lighting, but zero marketing. And like, there was a few people there, and they were charging $10 at the door, right? Mind, this is our first show in that area, and they were brand new. And they were turning people away. I was like, just let them in. Like, why are you? There's 3 people here. Just let them. Like, after the show, I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? At least sell some alcohol and we can get some more eyes on us, I mean, they were like, just little things like that, I guess. But everything else was amazing about the venue.
Yep. And, honestly, there's some same issues like that. My area that I do a lot of coverage in is the stockyards, and there's two things going on in the stockyards that I don't really care for. Is one, the ticket prices are too much for the caliber of, or ticket prices or door cover charge is too much for the caliber of bands that they're actually showing.
Yeah.
And 2 is there's a couple booking agents in the area. I don't know. I'm not going to say who they are, but there's a couple booking agents in the area that are taking these acts and they're letting them book for like $100, $125 for an acoustic set, which is basically just flooding the market with super cheap acts, so that these guys that are doing this full time that don't have another, thing, you're basically pushing them out of the stockyards and just getting these really cheap acts. It's a really bad deal that's kind of going on right now. Have you seen that anywhere else where you're just getting so undercut by other acts, or do you not really pay attention to that and you just kind of, where you get booked, you get booked?
I mean, the money is obviously an issue because we got to keep, like I said, we got to keep the wheels on the ground,
Sure.
But I mean, in the beginning, we did a lot of those cheaper gigs, but one thing that we've been very fortunate to be able to do is we've been able to consistently build our following, and we've been able to get more money out of the venues because of that.
Sure.
So like we did our first show at the Stockyards a few weeks ago. We'd never played it before. So the money wasn't great. But we were like, okay, we'll go and do, and then the next time that's what our booking agency is for. And she's been great at doing that, trying to keep us where we're worth at least. So that's another thing also that kind of crosses my mind is trying to increase the worth of the band eventually to the point to where we're selling tickets successfully, right? That's everybody's goal.
Sure.
I mean, that's the only way this is sustainable, right? Number one is I want to write songs and I want to play my music. But if you just do that and don't worry about anything else, you're never going to get, there's so much more to this. So, we did our first night at the Stalkers, and it was really fun. We had a good time, but the money wasn't great. Austin, there was a big problem with that when I lived there. I mean, I played on 6th Street a couple of times, and I was like, I'm not doing this. It's like $50, dude. Like, you're kidding me, dude.
Yeah. So where did you end up playing at the Stockyards? And I apologize. I thought I had kept track of a lot of the bands that play up there, and I did not see that you played up there, so I apologize.
It was at Filthy McNasty's.
Oh, okay. So you was that on a Friday, or was that on the 11th?
It was it was the 4th. Friday.
The 4th. Okay. Friday the 4th. I got you.
Yeah. And,
so you met Aaron, the sound guy.
What's that?
Did you meet Aaron, the sound guy up there?
Yeah, he was awesome, man. Yeah.
Aaron's he's
super nice to accommodate. We roll with our sound engineer as well. And he was, they were talking all night.
Sure.
And when we were leaving, it was funny because we were leaving and we were like somewhere like outside Burleson or something like that at a Whataburger in the morning. Mm-hmm. And he drove by and came back and parked right in front. He goes, "Hey, what's going on?" He got us on the way out too the next day.
That's awesome. Yeah. Aaron's a great guy. So you actually have quite a few people on staff. How many people are in your band plus a sound engineer, I guess? So it's you.
Right now we roll with 5 people.
Wow.
4 on stage. I'm on lead guitar, our fiddle player, drummer, bass, and then our sound engineer. We try to keep it as tight as possible right now. But we're hoping to, hopefully by next year, maybe we'll bring on like a 6th guy, like a tech, merch kind of guy.
Sure. So I guess I forgot where I was going to say where I was going with that, but do you wow, totally just lost my train of thought. That doesn't really happen. Normally I could just kind of roll right through. Were you surprised kind of getting into this, the amount of gear outside of, like, if you're an electric guitar player, a lot of times you think it's just your amp and your guitar and your strings and blah, blah. But you, as kind of like the head of the horse, so to speak, like bringing on a sound engineer, did you have to buy, mixing boards, PAs, all that kind of stuff to keep because a lot of places don't have sound systems, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, so we roll like totally self-contained. So when we started this, we invested in a proper PA, all that kind of stuff, and we had, I don't know if you're familiar with the Mixer X32, and then we just bought another one for our ears. So we've slowly built our rig, and we're in the process right now of buying new ears, like new packs and all that, like upgrading them. So we're just doing one at a time, but we try to keep everything so we have exactly what we need regardless of what the venue has.
Sure.
Right. At the moment. And hopefully we'll just get to the point to where we just roll in our brain and plug it into like venues like Filthy McNasty's where they already have a really good PA.
They just upgraded. They're actually getting ready to do another upgrade too. Since you were there, Cantina Cadillac, which is 2 doors down, burned down.
It was the next day that happened.
It was the next day. Yep.
Yeah.
And so he's got that Allen and Heath SQ7 in there, but the power surge from that knocked out their overhead PAs. Mm-hmm. They actually had to get all new overhead PAs. It didn't touch the mixing board at all. But they're actually getting ready to upgrade to, I believe, it's not finalized yet, but I believe they're going to upgrade to an Allen and Heath D-Live in there. Oh, wow. Because Don, the owner, I think he wants to start doing some live at Filthy's albums. And then I know that because I do a lot of the recording and mixing for a lot of the live albums for a lot of places around here.
Okay.
I know that like I'm doing a mixed or a live album for Joe King down at Longhorn Saloon this upcoming September. So there's a lot of places down that are really putting a lot into their sound system. So the way you're rigging it up, and I apologize, we're getting kind of into the weeds on technical stuff, but the way you guys are hooking it up basically is you're just hooking everything into your stuff, and then you're running them an output line, right? You're just
right, yeah. So so everything stays the same on our end, our ears. So we're running 2 X32s right now, one for our ears and one for the front of house, and and yeah, so we just exactly just give them whatever
sure
tells.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of a weird audio nut, so I apologize. Anytime I get to talk like audio gear, it's just I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, when we got into this, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. I mean, I didn't know anything about. We just kind of learned, and then we're fortunate enough. Our sound engineer was on the road with Pat Green for a long time years ago. And so he retired, he stopped doing it, and then we got him to help us like 4 years ago one time for the show. And he came in and we kind of got along. He started doing shows with us, and he's been with me for 4 years now. And he's just wants to help us grow. And he wants to. So it's been great to have a guy who actually knows what the hell they're doing.
Sure.
To be like,
I'll be honest, I've never seen someone at your guys' level that has had a sound engineer. So that's kind of a cool thing to have, to be honest. And it sounds like your system is the better for it because
right. Oh yeah. I mean, he went in when he started working with us, he was like, all right, we're going to do this. We went into our trailer one time. He was throwing shit out of the trailer. You don't need this. What do you need this for, man? Get this the hell out of here. He taught us how to keep everything really tight, Mm-hmm. This is what we need. We have the backups for all the stuff in case whatever, and we're we're constantly trying to upgrade as well. We're trying to get up to like an M32 kind of thing or something like that.
So the X32 and the M32 are the same. The biggest issue right now is that, and I don't care who hears this, but Music Tribe bought Behringer and Midas, and they took the two leading brands in the audio world, as far as I'm concerned, and they didn't start. It's not like they started making inferior products, but what they did is they flushed customer service down the drain, as far as I'm concerned, and they made it near impossible to get parts. And it's unfortunate. Like, the reason Filthy McNasty's is running an Allen and Heath is because they had an X32 that all the outputs went out on it, and they needed a board quick. They bought an M32, which is the Midas version of the X32.
Right, yeah.
And the motor on channel 1 stopped working, and they freaked out thinking they had less than 100 shows on it. And so then they switched to the Allen Heath, and like simple things like power supplies. Power supplies used to be everywhere. Now you're looking at a 12 to 16 month wait on power supplies. Those motors for the slides, some of those are 12 months out. You know what I mean? That's crazy. So there's a lot of you look at all the big tours, a lot of them are switching to Allen and Heath just because of parts and customer service. Yeah. And
see, we haven't crossed those. Thank God we haven't crossed any of those bridges yet. But that's good to know, to keep in mind.
It's
because I keep hearing that too. I keep hearing like we can't get anything. The packs. I'm waiting for a pack for my drummer, a new, just a short, the upgraded one, and we've been on the waiting list for like 6 months, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of it has to do with just geopolitics. You know what I mean? But really, the stuff with Behringer is when Music Tribe bought them, they just stopped. They cut off all the tie. They just cut off all the ties with the people that were manufacturing the parts, and they went to an as-needed basis. So it's like they're not stocking anything anymore. Everything's made to order, which means you have to wait for something to be built, and then you have to wait for minimum orders. It's ridiculous. But to kind of get out of that, get back to the music side of things, what's been your biggest challenge and biggest success so far?
I think it's been a bunch of tiny successes. The biggest challenge is keeping where we're at is trying to grow, and not getting stagnant, right? But as far as successes, I think that's kind of come with it. Like, it's been a bunch of little successes, and that's always been what I've told the guys, and what my mentality regarding this is like, as long as we keep progressing, we'll get there eventually, you know.
Sure.
Just keep releasing singles, keep being consistent, keep working on our live show, keep doing all those things, all the little things. And as long as we keep seeing, you know, just one little success at a time, we get to do a show with somebody that's big and our music goes over really well. You know, to me, that's a huge success. Like, all right, yes, and we try to get them on board with us, you know, as well. And so it's been I don't think we've seen one really big success. It's been a lot of little things that I kind of feel like are adding up, and it's helped us to keep that little growth, you know, keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we were at, like, one of those little successes I can talk about is Filthy McNasty's, all right? We had, I don't know if you know who George Navarro is.
Yeah.
He's from Chihuahua, Mexico. Yeah. So we got along really well because I'm from South Texas, and, you know, he's from Mexico and stuff. And he opened the show for us. We had a great time. But we went on, and I was a little nervous because I know a bunch of my buddies' bands, and maybe this is incorrect, but this is the idea that I had of Filthy McNasty's. A bunch of my buddies' bands had gone and done the 9 to 1 thing, and they play, like, primarily covers, right? And we're trying to push our music as much as we can. So I told the guys, you know what? Screw it. We're going to go and play our music. We're going to mix it with covers, obviously. But we're going to go and just, who cares what happens? You know, I was kind of nervous about it, but we went and it was great. So to me, that was a huge success because we had people dancing to our music, asking where they can get it, engaged in the show. You know? So little things like that is like, all right, we're good. We can play our music. we were good. Just keep going. Let's keep going.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's a good feeling. And I think as you grow as an artist, and I see this not because I'm an artist myself, but because I get to talk with and observe a lot of artists, but I think as you grow as an artist, you also learn how to read crowds. You know what I mean? In order to, like, we were going to play this song here, but man, let's switch it up just a little bit and get the crowd fired back up. And there's kind of those ad libs, I guess you could say, as you grow as an artist. But you think you're pretty much done teaching?
Oh yeah.
You're sticking with the music. No interest in going back to be a teacher.
I mean, I'm real happy with the progress. You know, it's slow progress, but people don't realize it's like that in any business. You know, people say it takes 10 years to build a successful business anywhere. You know, and I think it's a lot like if you just think of it like this, and think of this as a business, and just keep growing, keep building that fan base, keep building supporters. You know, I'm super happy. I'm trying to go back to the question you were asking about the teaching. The point of me saying that is where we're at now. I feel like there's enough progress and enough, like, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel kind of feeling. Where I'm like, I'm in the right business now. For the first few years, it was really difficult. I mean, it was a lot of that quitting. Like, shit, man, what am I doing? You don't see anything. You don't see any success. And we started off as a cover band, too. So I was like, how long can I do this before I'm actually going to grow the pair and start pushing our own music, you know? So at this point, it's like I'm in all the way, like do or die. Like I'm, you know, enjoying it too a lot more than what I was in the beginning. And the process of it, I'm starting to enjoy the process of it more, you know. So.
Awesome. Well, the latest single that you need to call all your radio stations, you can listen to it on Texas Country Today Radio as well. That's on Live 365. But the single that you need to be requesting is "String Me Along" by J.R. Herrera. J.R., where can people find all your band information? Where can they buy merch, tour stops, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the number one, it'll point you in all directions, is the website, jrherreraband.com. And then Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, TikTok, it's all at JR Herrera Band. So it's super easy. As long as you can get through to spelling my name right, you'll be okay.
Yeah, two R's. Well, 2 R's in a row on Herrera. Yeah, Herrera.
Yeah.
Three R's total. 2 E's and A and an H. I think you can get that figured out. But man, JR, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today, and I can't wait to see what the future brings. I really do like your music. It's kind of right up my, Dusty and I have very similar yet vastly different taste in music. Mm-hmm. And when he told me about this, he goes, "Man, you got to listen to this. He's going to be it's going to be your kind of song, and he was not wrong. String Me Along
Thank you.
is
I appreciate
definitely
that, Brian.
my kind of song. So, what's your week look like next week? You got any big shows planned for next week?
So we're in. Actually, tomorrow I'll be up in. I don't know when this is going to air, but this is Monday the 21st, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm in Willow Park with Randy Brown doing a song.
Yeah,
swap
the
with
Randy
him.
Brown show. Yeah, I love.
Yeah,
Man,
I'm there tomorrow, man, on the 22nd. So
I,
I'm gonna
you
go
know,
up in the
I,
morning. In fact,
I might actually make that one.
Yeah, come out. I think we start from 7. It's like 7 to 10 or something like that.
Yeah. They do
Railhead-
the
Rail House. I don't know what it's called.
Railhead Barbecue. They do so there'll be a 95.9 The Ranch thing there where they do a songwriters kind of contest, and then following the songwriter contest, Randy Brown always brings in another act to do kind of a song swap. And a couple weeks ago, you had Daryl Dodd, but the amazing bands that have come through that particular show, just so you know where you're at in the stack of things, Co-Wetzel came through that.
Really?
Cody Jakes came through that. So that's kind of a long line. So Randy's one of my. I would consider him a good friend. I don't know what he'd consider. It just depends on how many Miller Lights he's had, I guess. I'm just messing. You can. It's kind of tough to see, but I play guitar with. Let's see if that'll focus on there. Maybe. It says Randy Brown. I use Randy Brown picks to play my guitars because but lots of really cool bands have gone through the Railhead up there. It is going to be a little bit hot, so make sure you're hydrated. But that's a great crowd. That is a great crowd with killer food. So
I did it last August with him, and we had a lot of fun, man. I hadn't met him before. He was a fun guy, so he invited me back, and I said, hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Randy's kind of a force in the business. He's got this mantra about him that you either really love him or you just don't want to associate him. And I haven't met anybody that doesn't want to associate with him. So pretty much everybody loves Randy. He's kind of got the lovable. And I don't think he is one, but he's kind of got that lovable town drunk feeling of him. And
we had a good time, man. I really enjoyed him.
So I will actually try to make up. I will try to be there for that one. That's gonna be a good show then. So it's just you acoustically and Randy.
It's just me and Randy. It's a song swap.
Right.
And
very cool.
It's like last year. He had a lot of people like come in. That we had some people that followed the band that came in as well. And so I've been looking forward to this gig actually for a while.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be a little hot, but who cares? It's Texas. Cool down. Yeah, exactly. They got fans, but exactly. All right, man. Well, like you said, go find JR Herrera Band on all the social medias. And once again, I do want to say thank you to our sponsors, because without them, we would not be able to. Well, I would, but the podcast would not be able to sustain itself. So smithmusic.com, the pioneers in music distribution and all the other good stuff that goes with putting music out. You've got Sharp Supply Leather Company making the finest leather straps and DAP kits. You can see examples of Josh Sharp's work. If you look at Josh Ward's strap, Randy Brown's strap, Dusty Mote's strap, those are all Josh Sharp specials. And actually, Randy Brown just had his Telecaster, his kind of Merle Haggard Telecaster, rewrapped. It's a leather wrapped Tele. And Josh redid the leather on it, kind of revamped it up and put new string on it. And it actually had 388 yards of leather string to hold that thing together, which is it's crazy. He did it in like 4 days. But anyways, Texas Select Beverage Company, making the best teas, coffees, non-alcoholic beers, all sorts of good stuff. And then R. Watson Boots, got Cinco microphones and Fort Worth camera. So JR, once again, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And man, Can't wait to.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you at the show.
Yes, sir.